Engagement Eve. On the eve of my engagement, my fiancé decided to break it off, his eyes carrying a determination I had never seen before. Gloria. I'm sorry. Helen and I have a child. That fragile little white flower who came from the slums had given birth to his son just a week ago. Alone in a leaking rented room, his eyes were red as he said, "She only has me." In the end, I chose to take off the engagement ring. 3 years later, I met them again at a charity gala, now a family of 3. The once rebellious young master who had fought against the whole world for love now looked annoyed as Helen held their crying child, tugging at his tie. He muttered, "Didn't I tell you not to come to these kinds of occasions?" That night, my phone lit up with a familiar number. Gloria. Oliver's voice was hoarse beyond recognition. I regret it. Chapter 1. In front of me lay not only a pregnancy report from a few months ago, but also a marriage certificate. Red and blinding. Even now, I still couldn't believe the man I had loved for 5 years would betray me. It was just an accident. There wasn't a trace of guilt in Oliver's eyes, only unshakable resolve. It's my fault. But Helen only has me now. The child is mine, and I have to take responsibility. The hand that had been fiddling with my ring froze. A thick frost settled over my heart. He wanted to take responsibility for that child. So what about the 5 years we had shared? I hesitated over what to say. When his phone rang, from across the table, I clearly saw the note he'd given the caller, wife. It dawned on me, he wasn't negotiating with me. He was notifying me. Through the phone came the sobbing of a woman, painfully clear. Oliver, don't ruin your engagement with Gloria because of me. I only gave birth to the child for a sense of belonging. Oscar looks so much like you, if you have time. Just come visit us. I won't ask for anything else. The more she pushed Oliver away, the more his heart ached for her. His brows knitted tight, his gaze boring into me, as if my silence would make me guilty of some terrible crime. He had already tossed the marriage certificate in front of me, yet still claimed he didn't want to destroy our engagement. Helen, wait for me at home. I'll be back soon. Home? I glanced up at the wall full of wedding photos of Oliver and me. What a cruel irony. We had already taken the photos, only waiting to register and hold the wedding. Back then, Oliver had sworn, "You'll be the happiest, most beautiful bride in the world." He hung up, his expression grim. Do you have anything else to say? I couldn't understand. How could 2 people who once loved so passionately turn into strangers? Was it when Helen first appeared in our lives? Or when Oliver secretly rented an apartment for her? I had thought he was simply being kind. After all, over the years we had sponsored many poor students. No wonder I hadn't suspected a thing. I even let her freely come and go from my company. Oliver had said she was about to graduate, and that learning in advance would help her. He had said, if you help, do it all the way. And now, she had taken both the man and the money. Tears brimmed in my eyes. My pale fingers slowly removed the ring and set it on the table. Reason and my upbringing reminded me not to fall apart, so I bit my lip and held the tears in. Go. I will never wear this ring again. Let's just pretend our engagement never existed. Oliver hadn't expected me to agree so readily. He froze for a moment, then quickly regained composure. From now on, don't cause trouble for Helen. He was the kind of man who would go against the entire world for her. How would I dare cause her trouble? With that, he vanished in the blink of an eye. I stared at the empty room, my chest hollow and aching. I tore the wedding photos off the wall and threw them into the storage room. Then I picked up the phone. Brother, Oliver and I aren't getting married. I'll go to Germany, as I promised. My family had known a little about what was going on between us. They thought it was just a spoiled young master throwing a tantrum, and that eventually he'd come around and marry me. But they underestimated Oliver's determination, and I overestimated our love. I later heard that on the day I left for Germany, Oliver's father personally came to apologize. What happened after that? I never found out. Chapter 2. During my days in Germany, I buried myself in books. The memories of Oliver slowly faded away. If it hadn't been for running into him at a charity gala 3 years later, after finishing my studies and returning home, I might have already forgotten his face. At that time, my brother was introducing me to different partners of the family business. Oliver, dressed in a black suit, stood across the hall from me. He raised his glass, smiling slightly. I found it odd, until I looked around and realized he was toasting me. After a few seconds of eye contact, he walked straight toward me. But before he could speak, someone else cut in. Back when I was on a business trip in Germany, I ran into you. My name is Diego. I'm one of the co-hosts of tonight's gala. Who would have thought we'd meet again here? What a coincidence! I turned my head to look at the handsome man before me. I did remember him vaguely. My brother had gone to greet someone else. So Diego probably didn't yet know my identity. Before I could reply, Oliver stepped in front of me. Mr. Diego, don't you think your way of hitting on women is a little old-fashioned? And who might you be? Diego asked with genuine confusion. He clearly had no idea who Oliver was. Oh, I remember now. Aren't you the famous Oliver, the young master who once defied the whole world in the name of true love? Funny, though, I only see you here. Where's your wife? Didn't she come with you? He glanced around deliberately, as if searching. Oliver's complexion, already poor, turned darker and paler by the second. It's not a good look. You know, being married and still getting too close to another woman, Diego added, leaning in to whisper near Oliver's ear. But I heard every word, loud and clear. Oliver's fists clenched tight, the veins on his forehead bulging. He looked like he was about to throw a punch. Yet in the next instant, he released his grip and forced a smile. Gloria is like a sister to me. We grew up together. Talking with her shouldn't be such a scandal, should it? Sister? Had Oliver forgotten the way he once spoke to me? If I had really meant anything to him, he wouldn't have abandoned me right before our wedding. I frowned, unable to understand. Didn't you say I wasn't allowed to show up in front of you and your wife ever again? Oliver was becoming more and more incomprehensible to me. He was the one who said he loved me, the one who broke off our engagement, and now he was the one approaching me again. Are you still angry with me for what happened back then? Oliver looked at me with an aggrieved expression, as if I were the one at fault. Angry? Oliver, it's been 3 years. I let it go a long time ago. This glass is for our past. Let's drink it and never speak of it again. I smiled, raised my glass, and drained it in one go. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Helen, being stopped at the door, her arms full with a crying 3-year-old child. When I turned my head back, Oliver, who had just been standing in front of me, had vanished, just like 3 years ago. So it really is Gloria. Your brother is one of the investors in our new project. Let me reintroduce myself, Diego. This handsome man, I had met him 3 years ago, shortly after arriving in Germany. I had almost been hit by his driver while rushing across the street. The driver apologized profusely, and Diego himself got out of the car to apologize as well. I hadn't even been hurt, but he insisted on giving me his business card and compensation, even though I ran off telling him it wasn't necessary. I later found 50,000 yuan deposited into my account. I had long since lost his card, which is why I didn't know his name until now. That he could track down my account details back then didn't surprise me anymore. As we exchanged polite words, I overheard Oliver's voice, full of irritation. Didn't I tell you to stay home and take care of the child? What are you doing here? He tugged at his collar impatiently, looking exhausted as he stared at Helen and the boy. The once lively gala was now filled with the cries of a restless child. Helen's dress was stained with milk, completely out of place in such an elegant evening. Guests turned their heads to watch the scene unfold. Helen seemed oblivious. She rocked the child in her arms, trying to soothe him, all the while explaining to Oliver that she came only because she was worried about him. When her gaze swept across the hall and landed on me, it froze. From confusion, to panic, to open hostility. Chapter 3. Helen had changed a lot compared to before. I remember when I first met her. She looked like a pure little white flower, almost like the innocent heroine of some cheesy romance novel. A broken home, a broken girl. Following Oliver, I had helped many poor students before. They were usually insecure yet resilient. But Helen was different. She knew when to appear weak, and when to pretend to be strong. Sometimes I felt she understood human nature even better than I did. When she showed grievance, even I, a woman, would feel moved. But I never doubted Oliver. He once told me that the woman he would marry must be intelligent and independent. He said he didn't like fragile types who would topple at the slightest breeze. And yet, in the end, He betrayed me, and everyone, for exactly that kind of woman. Now Helen showed almost no trace of her former self. Time and children had worn her down, and to think, it had only been 3 years. Helen slowly walked toward me, but before she could take the last step, security stopped her. "Sorry, ma'am. Do you have an invitation?" "What invitation? Isn't it enough that my husband is here?" 3 years of marriage, and Oliver hadn't even told her the most basic things? Her tone had changed as well. Once gentle, her voice was now sharp, shrill, like a street shrew. If once I had hated her, now I only pitied her. "Everyone knows I'm Oliver's wife. Why would I need an invitation?" At that, even the child in her arms stopped crying. Guests were starting to grow impatient. The security guards prepared to remove her, while Oliver remained motionless. He didn't even look at her. Worse, his gaze was filled with disgust. Wasn't this the woman he once treasured like a pearl in his palm? How could he allow others to treat her this way? Back then, even if I so much as glanced at her, he accused me of looking down on her. After everything came to light, before I left abroad, he forced me to delete Helen's contact. I want to build a good life with Helen. Don't appear in her world again. I'm afraid she won't feel secure. That was the last message Oliver sent me before my flight took off. So I deleted both Helen and Oliver. They had both changed. One, loving to the point of madness. The other, cold and indifferent. To avoid further scandal, I ordered my driver to bring the car to the entrance and send her home. "Ma'am, the banquet is almost over. Please go back first. Your husband will be home soon." Since my brother was one of the organizers, I didn't want any scene before the event ended. "What do you mean? You want me to leave so you can create an opportunity with my husband? 3 years and you still can't forget him." Helen's words grew more absurd by the minute. "My sister would never be interested in your husband." Security, why is someone like this even allowed in? At that, 3 or 4 guards dragged her out, literally pulled her away. Oliver never once looked at her. His coldness made it seem as if none of this had anything to do with him. "Oliver, sending you an invitation was for your father's sake, not so your wife could cause trouble here." My brother, usually gentle with everyone, was now stern to the extreme. He only had one sister, me, and had always treated me well. 3 years ago, when I begged him not to withdraw investments from Oliver's family, it was because I didn't want emotions to affect business. Oliver still had a good business mind, and back then he indeed made money. Only after Helen was gone did Oliver come to me to apologize. "Sorry, Gloria, I promise. She'll never appear before you again." Wait, that sounded familiar. The way he looked at me carried an odd, misplaced affection. Before my brother could say anything else, Oliver turned and left. "Gloria, I believe you won't make the same mistake again." In Mr. Diego's eyes, am I really such a foolish woman? Diego didn't answer, just gave a sheepish smile. What right did Oliver have to think I would fall again for a man who once humiliated me? By then, my chest felt unbearably tight. My brother noticed and offered to drive me home. I waved him off. I wanted to walk alone, to clear my head. Chapter 4. By the time I was almost home, it was close to midnight. I hadn't expected Helen to suddenly appear in front of me. "Why did you suddenly come back?" she demanded. Her hair was a mess, her whole appearance disheveled. Maybe she had fought with Oliver after going home, but I wasn't interested in any of that. I came back, of course, to take over the family business. What else do you think? Did you really believe I couldn't let go of your husband? Everything between me and you two ended 3 years ago. I don't want any ties with either of you now. It's late. Go home. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to have the bodyguards escort you back. I had made myself perfectly clear. If Helen kept pestering me, then she really was insane. But she still wasn't satisfied. She snapped harshly. "You'd better stick to your word, or you'll see what happens." Looking at the woman in front of me, her features twisted with rage, I simply couldn't reconcile her with the shy girl who used to blush when making eye contact 5 years ago. I ignored her and headed straight toward the villa, but only a few steps later, my phone rang. That all too familiar number flashed across the screen. When I answered, a hoarse male voice came through. "Gloria," he paused, then added, "I regret it." The moment I heard that, I hung up immediately and blocked Oliver's number. What right did he have to speak of regret? Helen, standing behind me, must have recognized Oliver's voice. She started shouting that she wanted to hear the recording of the call. So you lied about not caring about my husband. Then why are you two still contacting each other behind my back? I rubbed my forehead and let out a bitter laugh. If I wanted to hide something from you, I wouldn't have answered the call right in front of you. And since you're so desperate to know what Oliver said, I'll tell you myself. He said he regrets it. With that, I walked away without looking back. The next morning, my brother sat across from me. Since you're back, you'll start off as a project manager. As for Oliver's family's project, you can decide whether to take it or not. Personally, I think its prospects are poor. Oliver is nowhere near as capable as he used to be. I nodded without saying a word. Cutting ties with Oliver's business after pulling our investment suited me perfectly. When I arrived at the company, I noticed a crowd gathered outside. In the middle of it all was a familiar face. Oliver's striking features stood out, even from dozens of steps away. I could hear Helen's shrill voice. I saw you going to see Gloria with my own eyes. After everything, what more do you have to say? Facing her accusations, Oliver pressed his lips together, that same impatient look from 3 years ago appearing on his face. Don't make a scene, okay? Everyone's watching. I don't want to argue with you here. Around them, people whispered among themselves. So the man who once betrayed his family for love still straight after marriage? Someone remarked. Another scoffed. What do you expect? I heard that soon after the wedding. Even while breastfeeding, Helen stuck to Oliver like glue, terrified another woman would steal him. Exactly. And because she barged in during one of his meetings, Oliver lost $1 million deal. I sighed and told security to disperse the gossiping crowd. The moment they saw me, everyone fell silent. Oliver, however, lit up with excitement, almost eager, as he stepped closer. Gloria, what did you need to see me about? Chapter 5. The moment I said that, Helen looked at me as if she wanted to devour me alive. I raised my hand to block her as she tried to lunge forward and spoke to Oliver. I came here to inform you that the cooperation is terminated. I am now the project manager. Once you sign the papers, you can leave. With that, I pulled out the contract from my bag, the same one from back then. My family had only agreed to cooperate with them for my sake and had invested a considerable amount of money. But now, Oliver had nothing to do with me, nor did he have the same abilities he once had. There was no reason to keep dragging this out. After hearing my words, Helen's face showed relief, as if the heavy stone in her heart could finally be set down. Oliver, however, remained standing there, looking lost. I stood on the steps, half a head taller than him. Once, I had always looked up to him. Now, the positions were reversed. It had been my love for him that placed a filter over my eyes, making him appear flawless. Suddenly, I remembered when he first proposed the idea of sponsoring underprivileged students. I had just been admiring how the boy from next door was so attentive to left-behind children. And the very next moment, he told me he had a plan to help children in the mountains attend college. Back then, I looked at the high-spirited youth and felt my heart race. In our circle, many only did charity for show. Most of the donated money was siphoned off, and only a fraction reached those truly in need. But Oliver was willing to take charge personally, and so I followed him, helping to manage everything. Even though we were just university students then, during our years at school, we helped more than 10 underprivileged students enter university. It hadn't been as easy as we had imagined, and gradually Oliver grew discouraged, often finding excuses not to return to the mountains. Until that one time, when I coaxed him into visiting again, and we saw a frail Helen curled up in a pigsty. Oliver, who had always been a clean freak, actually reached out his hands to her. Don't be afraid. We're here to help you. A broken family, an alcoholic father, endless beatings. That was Helen's childhood. Like a tragic heroine in a TV drama, no matter how much others wanted to help her. At first, she always refused. She bit her lip, eyes red. I don't need your charity. I never knew exactly how Oliver convinced her. But in the end, Helen accepted our help. I blinked, looked at the dazed Oliver in front of me, and added, "Do you have anything else to say?" A flicker of panic flashed in his eyes. He reached out to grab me, but I slapped his hand away. Gloria, you're still mad at me, aren't you? Before I could respond, Helen scoffed coldly. And what about me and the child? Don't forget, you were the one who swore you'd only marry me. I had no interest in their personal drama. Seeing that Oliver still refused to sign, I simply left him with, "Once you sign, have someone deliver it to me," and turned to leave. Chapter 6. Oliver must have mentioned the cancellation of the cooperation to his father, because that very evening Oliver's father invited me to dinner at the New Century Hotel. My brother was also invited. My brother went straight to the point. The cancellation of the cooperation was my idea. Uncle, don't blame my sister. She's always listened to me since we were kids. What are you saying? I only heard that Gloria came back from Germany, and I missed her a little. Oliver's father smiled, patting Oliver on the shoulder. I heard it's very hard to graduate in Germany. For Gloria to finish her degree in 3 years and return home shows real talent. If only Oliver had been more rational back then, perhaps things would be different now. The conversation suddenly shifted to the past. I had just picked up some food, but before it reached my mouth, I dropped it into the plate before me. I thought tonight's dinner was meant to discuss renewing the cooperation, but unexpectedly, they had dragged the old matter back again. Uncle, no matter what, Oliver is an adult. The choices he made mean he must take full responsibility for the consequences. There's no need to beautify a path that was never chosen. My brother had already made things clear, but the father and son sitting before me still refused to give up. Oliver's father took out a velvet box from beside him. Inside was a set of gold jewelry. I remembered Oliver once told me that this had belonged to his late mother, intended for his future wife. The dinner was becoming increasingly unpleasant. Gloria. 3 years ago it was Oliver who was immature. He regrets it. I scolded him, punished him. You don't know how many jokes our family has become because of that woman. That woman. She comes from some backwater. She knows nothing. Do you realize how much our company has lost because of her? Gloria, you and Oliver were childhood sweethearts. You're a match made in heaven. This jewelry is just a token of our sincerity. After you and Oliver marry, I will transfer all my shares to you. At my age, I should retire. If not for worrying about your marriage, I wouldn't have held on this long. To me, his words carried a strong sense of moral coercion. Oliver chimed in, saying he had always missed me these past years. After you deleted me, I kept following you with an alternate account. I knew you spent 5 months self-learning German, even volunteering. Gloria, everything in the past was my fault. Please give me another chance. I won't make the same mistake again. My brother slammed his chopsticks on the table, face dark with anger. I held him back before he could explode, and asked calmly, "Then why would you think I'd be foolish enough to make the same mistake again?" Then I smiled, turning to Oliver's father. Uncle, I'm grateful that you've always kept me in your thoughts. But Oliver hasn't even divorced yet, and he has a son. Even if he divorces, what about the child? I don't like complicated things. That's all I have to say. My brother and I wish you good health and a long life. That's right, my brother added. At the time, I agreed to the marriage only because they seemed to truly like each other. She's still so young. She deserves to see more of the world, don't you think? Without waiting for them to respond, my brother stood up to settle the bill. The fact that Oliver's family said such words today showed they were really close to collapse. Otherwise, Oliver's father, almost 70, would not have come personally to plead for his son. He had always doted on Oliver, being his late-born son, and that was understandable. But if he had truly been firm back then, a Helen alone would never have married into their family. I don't really blame Oliver's father. In the end, the root of the problem was always Oliver. At first, I did hate Helen. It would be unrealistic to say I didn't. After all, if not for her, none of this would have happened. But it was only for a short while. Soon, I realized I should thank her. Her presence allowed me to see clearly the true nature of the man beside me. Chapter 7. After that so-called family dinner, Helen somehow found out about Oliver wanting to divorce her, and she threw a huge fit at home. Oliver told her bluntly that his family was going bankrupt. The woman who used to cling to him like a shadow suddenly went quiet. A few days later, one afternoon, after I had just secured a big project, I ran into Helen sitting outside my office door, looking completely drained. I'm willing to divorce Oliver. The moment I stepped out, she blurted that out. The situation kept getting stranger. And honestly, I was exhausted. What's that supposed to mean? Do you really think I still have feelings for him? I'll divorce him. Please, please help him. With that, she suddenly dropped to her knees in front of me. Startled, I instinctively took a few steps back. The woman before me was crying, looking like she was ready to sacrifice herself for love. I have nothing. Back then, Oliver was the one who saved me, who got me into the university I had always dreamed of. That day, I wanted to die, but Oliver not only helped me, he saved my life. I don't know much about the world, but I don't want to see him ruined. Your family has money, don't you? Can't you just help him once? I'll divorce him. I won't ask for anything. Please don't let him go bankrupt. Please. I'm begging you. Helen kept repeating those last words over and over until I couldn't stand it anymore. I sighed. Back then, the one who dragged him out there was me. Helen lifted her tear-streaked face, staring at me in confusion. I reached out and helped her up. If it hadn't been for me, he never would have met you. You think what he feels for you is love? It's nothing but opportunism. Even the money we used to sponsor you, more than half of it came from me. Her eyes widened in shock. And now that his family is collapsing, instead of trying to earn money honestly, both father and son want to take shortcuts, hoping to save the company through marriage. Helen, we sponsored your education so that one day you'd have the chance to choose your own destiny. And yet you had a child out of wedlock, with a man who was already engaged. Do you think that honors the education you received? It was the first time I'd ever said so much to her. Before, if I so much as pointed out that she couldn't even use a printer, Oliver would shield her. Ah. I finally understood. 3 years ago, Oliver warned me not to cause Helen any trouble. So that's what he meant. I had never understood back then. When had I ever gone after her? Even at my lowest point, when my heart was shattered, I never once thought about revenge. And suddenly, the whole thing struck me as laughable. Go, I said. Chapter 8. Even though Helen caused a huge scene at the company, we still didn't change our decision to cut ties with Oliver's family. He ended up divorcing her, and custody of the child was given to Oliver's family on the grounds that Helen had no financial means to raise him. But honestly, how much better off were they? Once we terminated cooperation, other companies took the chance to kick them while they were down and pulled their investments too. Oliver's family went bankrupt much faster than I had expected. Not long after, Oliver's company officially declared bankruptcy. Proud and arrogant, Oliver refused the job his father had secured for him through connections. It was a management position, paying at least $6,000 a month. I couldn't help but feel relieved that I had walked away from him long ago. Later, I was invited to a banquet hosted by Diego's family. My brother told me it was to help Diego find a suitable wife. But the entire evening, all anyone wanted to talk about was the gossip surrounding Oliver's downfall. Some claimed that years ago his project designs were plagiarized. Others whispered he had been secretly using drugs, which explained his reckless spending, making recovery after bankruptcy impossible. Suddenly, a pair of hands covered my ears. Don't listen to that. Dance with me instead. It was my fault last time. I shouldn't have judged you so quickly. I turned, and it was Diego standing there. I knew what he wanted, and that was precisely why I came, to draw a clear line. After what happened at the charity gala, I realized he was no different from the rest of those rich heirs, and I had no intention of repeating past mistakes. Mr. Diego, I've had a bit too much to drink. Could you walk me to the door? He froze for a moment, then nodded, and even draped a coat over my shoulders like a gentleman. The girl next door just turned 24. She's admired you for years. Mr. Diego, maybe you should give her a chance, and yourself too. I've been back from Germany for less than half a year. There's still so much I need to learn at work. I understand your intentions. Mr. Diego, the flowers you sent were beautiful. I put them all in the office, and they've brightened the mood for everyone. Diego had been sending me roses for weeks. Even someone slow on the uptake could guess what he meant. After what happened last time, I realized I don't need love as much as I thought. If you're willing to see me as just a friend, I'll be grateful. Thank you for the coat. My driver is here. I'll be going now. Goodbye. I slipped the coat off and handed it back without looking back. At least he wasn't like Oliver. Impossible to shake off. And after that night, Diego never sent another thing to my office again. Chapter 9. The next time I heard about Helen was a month later. Some female colleagues at the company were gossiping loudly together. Did you hear? Oliver's ex-wife tried to seduce some young master, but she got humiliated in front of a crowd. What? How shameless can she be? 3 years ago, wasn't it because she seduced Oliver that our chairman's sister had to leave the country? And after all this time, she still hasn't changed. Once a tramp, always a tramp. People like her deserve whatever they get. Hey, I even have a video of it here. Want to see? Their giggles filled the room. I really couldn't stand it anymore, so I walked over to them. When I glanced at the phone screen and saw Helen half-dressed, a strange feeling welled up inside me. What are you doing? The woman who had just taken out her phone quickly shoved it back into her pocket when she heard my voice, shaking her head in panic. Manager, please don't be angry. We were just standing up for you. Another woman sitting across the table chimed in, self-righteous, as if she were avenging me. You mean I've fallen so low that I need you to take revenge on my behalf? Or are you saying you see me as some petty woman who'd ruin herself over a man? That's not what we meant. Manager, really? And that video, what you're doing isn't just immoral. It could even be illegal. Don't spread this kind of trash again. They nodded blankly, not daring to say more. As for Helen, I never thought she'd committed some unforgivable sin, nor did I believe she should have to pay some heavy price. I just felt she was a little pitiful, a little wasted. To fall this low in the name of so-called true love, no one could save her anymore. When my brother heard about it, he directly fired the 3 employees. I thought that would be the end of it, and I could take a break by going on vacation to the seaside. But Oliver appeared again, ruining all my plans. He was standing at the villa door, disheveled and unrecognizable. Gloria, I really know I was wrong. I'm not here to ask for anything. I just hope you can forgive me. And, Anne, Oliver hesitated. I sighed. What exactly are you trying to say? At this point, I don't expect much, but my father, he fell gravely ill last month. His last wish is to see us together again. Can you help me? Oliver, you still don't understand me, just like I never understood you. What I hate most is moral blackmail. Second only to that is being near you. It's not about wealth or poverty. Our bond has been severed for good. You don't need to cling to me like a parasite. If your father is sick, you should be working hard to pay for his treatment, not coming here to play the victim. I have other matters to attend to, so I won't be seeing you out. I was crystal clear, but Oliver just stood there like a statue. Gloria. He suddenly shouted my name. Then what were our 5 years together worth? In the end, you still hate me, but aren't you heartless? My dad treated you like his own daughter since you were young, and now that he's dying, you won't even visit him once? You're so cruel. Aren't you afraid of karma? I heard you've been throwing your weight around at the company, firing people at will. Ha! Still pretending to be noble in front of me? I spread my hands and countered. Proof? If you don't have any, I can sue you for slander. Oliver suddenly grabbed my arm, snarling. The proof is with the 3 employees you fired. If you don't want your company's stock to tank, you'd better come back with me. I yanked my arm free with all my strength. And if I say no? The next second, I pressed the alarm button. A few bodyguards immediately pinned him down. I hadn't wanted things to go this far, but he kept pushing, refusing to let go. I didn't understand if we had already broken up. Why couldn't he cut things cleanly? Or was it because he had nothing left to lose, so he decided to drag me down with him? After the guards kicked him out, I called my brother to ask about Oliver's father. He told me Oliver's father, feeling humiliated, had gone back to his old family house. He wasn't sick at all. I laughed bitterly. I'd almost fallen for Oliver's lies again. Even after being kicked out, Oliver didn't stop. He spread rumors about our company. I wasn't lenient either. I reported him to the police and handed over the recording of his threats. The once arrogant prince of pure love, as everyone used to call him, was now nothing more than a prisoner. From the man everyone admired to the butt of jokes at tea tables, his downfall was striking. I could only sigh at the twists of fate. I heard Helen went back to the mountains, And no one's heard from her since. Maybe this is the ending we were destined for, 3 lines that should never have crossed. Each of us now returning to our own separate worlds.